The stars burned silent above the battlefield, but the silence did not last. Ships cut through the void, and the hum of engines was drowned out by the thunder of weapons. The war had come suddenly, like a storm no one had expected. The alien fleets had fought many battles across countless worlds, but what they saw on the human warfront was unlike anything they had faced before. The commanders thought Earth would fall quickly. Reports spoke of a primitive world with scattered nations, a species too divided to fight together. When the order came to invade, alien veterans laughed. They had crushed empires that spanned galaxies. What could one young species do? But the first landings told a different story. Troops who stepped onto Earth did not return. Transmission logs ended in static. Ships that hovered in orbit watched their soldiers vanish into fire and shadows. At first, leaders dismissed it as bad luck, an ambush, a few clever defenses. Yet as the days passed, the losses grew. One veteran, scarred from wars that spanned centuries, sat in the troop carrier and listened to the silence on the comms. His name was not recorded in human tongues, but his eyes had seen empires rise and fall. He had never feared an enemy before. Now he felt something stir inside him. Not respect. Not anger. Something colder. When his unit was deployed, they marched into cities already burning. Human weapons were crude by design, but the way they were used was terrifying. Rockets screamed from rooftops. Streets turned into traps. Even the air carried hidden dangers. Soldiers stepped forward and never returned, taken by mines, collapsing bridges, or fire from unseen windows. The humans fought like shadows, never where they were expected, always striking when it hurt most. The veteran saw humans move not as scattered tribes but as one force. Nations that had fought each other for centuries now stood side by side. He watched them drag wounded allies from the rubble, fight on with broken weapons, and strike back with a fury that seemed endless. One night, when the fires lit the sky red, he saw something that burned itself into his memory. A single human soldier stood at the edge of a ruined building. His armor was torn, his weapon smoking. Around him, dozens of alien soldiers advanced. The veteran expected him to run, to beg, to fall. Instead, the human screamed a wordless cry and charged. He fought with a broken blade, swinging until the ground was soaked in blood. Even when his body failed, his hands clung to the weapon. The aliens had to cut it free. The veteran felt something twist in his chest. He had fought warriors before, but none like this. None who gave everything, even when nothing was left. That night, as his unit retreated, he whispered to himself that this war would not end like the others. Commanders still spoke of victory, but he saw the truth in the eyes of his soldiers. They were not fighting to win anymore. They were fighting to survive. The war front was no longer a battlefield. It was a nightmare, and no alien who walked into it would ever leave unchanged. The veteran sat alone in the carrier, listening to the screams of war echoing in his mind. He had thought humans were weak. Now he knew the truth. The galaxy had misjudged them. The nightmare was only beginning. The alien veteran's carrier drifted through the wreckage of the battlefield. Silence filled the ship, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of absence, of voices that would never speak again. His squad had gone in 100 strong. Less than 30 walked out. The commanders did not ask for details. They already knew. Reports from other fronts came in. Whole divisions disappeared into the ruins of human cities. Fleets that entered Earth's orbit found themselves trapped by weapons they did not understand. The skies glowed with storms of fire, and the ground swallowed machines whole. The humans had turned their own planet into a fortress. Every forest, every street, every mountain carried death. The veteran sat at a console and replayed the transmissions. Static, screams, the sound of fire. Sometimes there was silence after a single word cut short, before it could be finished. The humans did not fight for glory or conquest. They fought like a species that had no other choice. They fought for survival. And survival gave them strength no weapon could measure. When the carrier returned to orbit, the veteran expected rest. Instead, new orders came. Another world was rising. Human colonies beyond Earth had joined the fight. Commanders scoffed at the idea. Those were small outposts, scattered and weak. But when the fleets arrived, the colonies were empty. No people, no crops, no homes. Only silence. At first, the invaders believed they had won easily. But then the traps woke. Mines hidden beneath soil erupted as troops landed. Empty cities collapsed onto marching units. Ships that hovered too close to the surface were torn apart by weapons rising from the ruins. The colonies were not abandoned, they were waiting. The veteran walked among the ruins and felt the air hum with danger. It was not only weapons the humans had left behind. It was a message. Every crater, every burning ship spoke the same truth. We will not surrender. As the days passed, the soldiers began to whisper. They whispered about shadows that moved when no one was there. They whispered about humans that never seemed to die. In one colony, an alien squad reported fighting the same soldier 3 times in different battles, until one commander checked the records and found that man had already been reported dead weeks before. Fear spread quietly, but fear was a weapon sharper than any blade. The soldiers began to see humans where there were none. Every sound of metal, every shift of wind, every flicker of light felt like an ambush. The veteran did not laugh at these stories. He had seen the way humans fought, the way they refused to fall even when broken. He knew the fear was not just in their minds. The fear was real, carved into the war itself. One night, when the fleet settled above a silent planet, the veteran looked out at the stars. He remembered wars long past, worlds that had begged for mercy, empires that had fallen silent under his blade. But never had he seen this. Never had he felt his own soldiers flinch at the thought of an enemy. A young recruit sat beside him, trembling. "Veteran," the recruit whispered, "why do the humans not break?" The veteran stared into the dark. His voice was low, heavy. "Because they have nothing else. When a species fights for pride, you can break it. When it fights for land, you can take it. But when it fights because there is no other way, it cannot be broken." The recruit said nothing. The truth hung in the air like smoke. The fleet above the planet grew restless. Commanders still promised victory, but the soldiers no longer believed. The warfront had become more than a battlefield. It had become a shadow that followed them wherever they went. Even in silence, the humans were there, waiting, watching, turning every world into a nightmare, and the veteran knew, deep in his bones, that this was only the beginning. The fleet descended upon a new world, marked as an easy victory. It was not Earth, but one of the human strongholds in orbit of their own sun. The commanders called it nothing more than a station of steel and smoke. They laughed as they gave the orders. But the veteran did not laugh. He had learned to fear every human-held place, no matter how small. The invasion began with fire. Alien ships rained plasma across the skies, tearing through human defenses. Explosions lit up the dark. Towers crumbled. The world below seemed ready to break. For a moment, the soldiers believed they were winning. They cheered as their weapons carved scars across the surface. Then the skies changed. The humans answered with storms of their own. From hidden silos, missiles rose like angry sparks. They streaked across the horizon, weaving between plasma blasts, chasing ships like hunters that refused to miss. The skies turned red and gold, alive with fire and smoke. The veteran's ship shook as explosions tore through the fleet. He clung to the railing, his eyes watching the cruiser fall in flames, its hull breaking apart before his very gaze. Soldiers screamed over the comms, voices cut short one by one. The burning skies swallowed them whole. When his unit landed, they found the ground no safer. Humans waited in silence, hidden in ruins, striking from the shadows. The air was thick with smoke and fire. Every breath tasted of ash. Every step could be the last. The soldiers moved in lines, their eyes darting at every flicker of movement. The veteran saw one of his men break formation, chasing a shadow into an alley. A moment later, fire erupted. The soldier's scream carried through the cums, then silence. Nothing but silence. Hours turned to days. The fighting did not stop. Even when the alien fleet scorched the skies above, the humans kept rising from the rubble. They fought with weapons older and weaker, but they fought with a rage that turned every strike into something more. The veteran stood on a ridge and looked down at the battlefield. The ground was a sea of fire. Broken machines burned beside ruined buildings. Above, the skies blazed with falling ships. And yet, in the middle of the chaos, humans still stood. Some fought with guns, others with blades, and some with nothing but fire in their hands and defiance in their eyes. One night, as the fires painted the heavens crimson, the veteran spoke to his commander. "This war is not like the others," he said. "Every victory feels like defeat. Every step forward costs more than it gives. The humans are not breaking. They are only becoming stronger," the commander scoffed. "You are old. You see ghosts where there are none. They will fall as all others have fallen." But the veteran did not answer. He only looked to the burning skies and thought of the soldiers who had charged into death with nothing left but courage. The war dragged on. Reinforcements came, but the nightmares grew. The skies that once belonged to the invaders now belonged to fire. Every descent to the surface was a gamble. Every night was filled with the sound of missiles rising from the dark. The soldiers began to whisper again. They whispered that humans had called the fire itself to fight for them. They whispered that the skies obeyed human hands. The veteran did not believe in myths, but he understood why the soldiers clung to them. Myths were easier than truth. The truth was far more terrifying. The truth was that the humans did not need gods. They did not need monsters. They only needed themselves. The veteran sat alone after another day of loss. His armor was scarred, his eyes heavy. He had seen hundreds of battles, but never this. Never a war where even victory felt like death. He closed his eyes, but sleep did not come. Only the burning skies returned again and again. And he knew that tomorrow they would burn brighter still. The war front stretched across continents. What had started as a single invasion was now a tide of fire and ash, swallowing world after world. Yet, the more the aliens pressed forward, the more resistance grew. Human defenses did not weaken. They hardened like iron struck by flame. The veteran stood at the edge of a ruined battlefield, his armor blackened, his weapon heavy in his hands. His unit had been ordered to push through a human stronghold. Commanders promised it would fall in hours. Instead, days passed. The stronghold still stood, its walls scarred but unbroken. The soldiers inside fought with the desperation of those who refused to yield. Every assault ended the same way. Broken lines of alien troops scattered across the ground, machines torn apart by traps, and skies streaked with fire. The veteran had marched with squads of 50. Now each time they returned, fewer came back. He remembered one attack most clearly. The fleet had opened the skies with plasma fire, and the ground shook as alien soldiers charged. The veteran was among them, his voice steady, urging his squad forward. They advanced into streets choked with smoke. At first, it seemed the humans had fled. Then the walls erupted. Hidden doors burst open, and humans poured out. They struck from every angle, from rooftops, from tunnels, even from burning wreckage. Rockets screamed, blades flashed, and in seconds the straight line of alien advance became chaos. The veteran fought hard, his weapon cutting through the dark. He saw humans fall, but for everyone that died, 2 more rose. His squad panicked, breaking formation, scattering into alleys. That was when the real nightmare began. The humans hunted them like wolves. Isolated soldiers were dragged into shadows. Explosions ripped through narrow streets, collapsing them into fire. The broken line became a graveyard. The veteran barely escaped, carrying 2 wounded comrades on his shoulders. When they reached safety, he looked back. Smoke choked the sky, and from within it, human voices rose not in victory, but in defiance. It was not the cry of conquerors. It was the cry of survivors who refused to fall. Later, around the campfires of the alien survivors, whispers spread. Soldiers spoke of humans who could not be killed. A man who stood after 3 bullets. A woman who fought with 1 arm. Children throwing fire at machines. Each story grew with fear, but the veteran did not laugh. He had seen enough to know the truth behind the whispers. Humans were not unkillable, but their will was. Break their bodies, and their spirit burned brighter. Strike them down, and their allies fought harder. They had built no empire, no great fleets, yet they wielded something more powerful than steel. They wielded unity born of desperation. One night, the veteran's commander called a council. The humans bleed like any other. We have the numbers, the weapons, the skies. We will win. The veteran stood in silence, then spoke. No, you do not understand. You think this is about victory. But for them, it is about survival. They will not stop until one of us no longer exists. The room grew quiet. Some scoffed, others shifted uncomfortably. But in their eyes, the veteran saw it, the seed of fear growing. The next morning, the aliens marched again. Another line formed, another push into the nightmare. The veteran led his unit once more, though his heart was heavy. He knew what waited ahead, more fire, more loss, more broken lines. When the battle began, the sky split with light, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Humans surged forward, not with numbers, but with fury. The alien line cracked. Soldiers screamed. Machines burned. The veteran fought until his arms trembled. Around him, comrades fell. Ahead, he saw a single human charging through the smoke, a broken flag clutched in his hands. The man was covered in wounds, yet he ran with the speed of a storm. He slammed into the alien ranks, and in that moment, the line broke completely. As the soldiers fled, the veteran stood his ground, watching the human collapse, flag still in his grasp. Even in death, the man had not let go. The veteran lowered his weapon slowly. His chest felt heavy, his breath cold. He whispered to himself, "This war is not about broken walls. It is about broken lines. And ours will always break first." The veteran had survived countless wars, but never one that felt this endless. Day and night blurred together, for the skies were always burning. Smoke blocked the stars, fire lit the ground, and the sound of war never stopped. It was as if the battlefield itself had turned into a living nightmare that refused to let them rest. On one world, the fleet had landed expecting an easy victory. They burned the surface, toppled the cities, and claimed the ground. But when night came, the humans returned. They struck with the darkness as their ally. Explosions shattered silence, bullets flashed like lightning, and shadows moved with deadly purpose. The veteran squad was ordered to hold a captured district. The streets were quiet when they arrived, their boots echoing on stone. For hours nothing stirred. Then, in the distance, came a sound, metal scraping against stone. The soldiers froze. Another sound followed, closer this time. Then a flare lit the sky, red and cruel. Shadows ran across rooftops. Humans were already inside the district. The attack came like a storm. From every angle, fire erupted. The aliens formed lines, but the darkness tore them apart. The veteran shouted orders, but half his squad vanished in the chaos. One soldier was dragged into an alley. Another fell when a hidden mine exploded beneath him. The night swallowed them, one by one. The humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like ghosts. Their footsteps were silent, their strikes sudden. They vanished as quickly as they came, only to strike again somewhere else. The veteran swung his weapon into the shadows, but often found nothing there. Hours passed like years. The veteran's eyes burned from smoke. His ears rang from constant gunfire. His armor felt heavy, his heart heavier still. By dawn, his squad had been reduced to a handful of survivors. They stood among ruins, trembling, waiting for another attack that did not come. The sun rose over the battlefield, but the fear did not fade. Soldiers whispered about the night, about the humans who moved like shadows. Some said they had seen eyes glowing in the dark. Others claimed the humans never slept, never stopped. The fear became a weight that clung to every soldier's chest. The veteran did not dismiss the stories. He had seen enough to know the truth. The humans had learned the battlefield better than anyone. They knew how to use every shadow, every sound, every moment of silence. They had turned the night into a weapon sharper than any blade. As the fleet regrouped, commanders demanded another assault. The humans are weak, they insisted. They cannot withstand another push, but the soldiers no longer believed. Their lines broke before the battle even began. They remembered the endless night, the way death had walked beside them in the dark. Their hands shook as they gripped their weapons. The veteran tried to hold them together. He reminded them that they had survived worse, that they still had numbers and weapons. But even he felt the truth pressing down on him. This was not like other wars. This was not about numbers or weapons. This was about a will that could not be crushed. That night, when the stars returned above the burning world, the veteran sat alone. He looked into the endless sky, but all he saw were flames and shadows. He thought of the humans who had fought in the darkness, of the soldier who carried a flag even as he fell, of the screams that echoed through the night. For the first time in his long life, the veteran admitted to himself what he had not dared speak aloud. This war could not be won. Not by his people. Not against humans. The endless night would never end. It would only grow darker. The veteran's people had once believed themselves unshakable. Their empire stretched across the stars, their fleets unmatched, their armies feared on every world. But as the war with humans dragged on, cracks began to show. The cracks widened until even the strongest could see them. At first, commanders spoke only of strategy. They promised new weapons, bigger fleets, faster victories. But the losses grew. Entire divisions vanished on Earth. Colonies meant to be easy prizes turned into graves. Even the skies, once ruled by alien warships, burned with falling wreckage. The veteran saw it in the soldiers' eyes. Once they marched with pride, heads high, armor gleaming. Now they walked with hunched shoulders, armor scarred, eyes hollow. They no longer asked when the war would end. They only asked if they would survive another day. Rumors spread like fire through the camps. Whispers said that humans had tamed death itself. That they fought with the spirits of their fallen beside them. That they could not be destroyed, because they did not fear destruction. Some soldiers refused to sleep at night, certain that human shadows crept closer with every breath. The veteran knew these were not just stories. They were truths wrapped in fear. He had seen humans fight with broken bodies, fight when hope was gone, fight when no sane being would stand. He had seen children with fire in their eyes and old men wielding weapons with trembling hands, but unbroken hearts. One day, the veteran was summoned before the High Council of Generals. Their chamber was vast, filled with banners of past victories. But even here, the air felt heavy. The generals' voices were sharp, but their eyes betrayed unease. "Veteran," one demanded, "you have seen the humans up close. Tell us what gives them strength. Why do they not fall?" The veteran paused. His scars itched, his chest tightened. At last he spoke. Because they cannot afford to. They fight for survival, not conquest. For them, defeat is death, not just for soldiers, but for their people, their children, their future. You cannot take that from them. You cannot scare them with loss. They have already faced it and risen. The council grew restless. Some scoffed, others whispered. Finally, a general slammed his fist upon the table. Then we must crush them harder. Burn their worlds. Break their will. The veteran shook his head. You do not understand. The more you burn, the stronger they become. Fire is not destroying them. It is forging them. His words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. The general said nothing, but he saw it, the flicker of doubt, the fear they tried to hide. As the war dragged on, rebellions sparked across the empire. Worlds that had once bowed to alien might now question their strength. The humans had shown the galaxy that giants could bleed. And once a giant bleeds, others are no longer afraid. The veteran returned to the front lines. His unit was smaller now, barely a handful of survivors. They no longer marched with songs of victory. They marched in silence, each step heavy, each breath weary. On one battlefield, he stood upon a hill of rubble. Before him stretched a ruined city, flames curling into the sky. Human soldiers moved within the smoke, shadows that would not fade. The veteran tightened his grip on his weapon, but his heart sank. He no longer saw enemies. He saw survivors, unyielding, unbroken. Behind him, one of his soldiers whispered, "When will this end?" The veteran did not answer, because he knew the truth. The empire itself was crumbling. It was not just the war front that was breaking, it was everything they had built. He looked once more at the humans below. Their banners rose among the flames, torn but still flying. They had suffered more than anyone, yet they still stood. And in that moment, the veteran understood something no general dared admit aloud. The war was already lost. The empire just had not realized it yet. The war front had swallowed worlds, fleets, and armies, but it was not finished. Humans had not only defended Earth, they had carried the fight across the stars. Their fleets, once small and scattered, now moved like storms. What had begun as defense had become a march of fire. The veteran's unit was sent to a frontier world, once a jewel of the alien empire. Its skies shimmered with shields, its cities were ringed with towers of defense. Commanders promised that here, the empire would finally stand unbroken. But the soldiers no longer believed promises. They remembered too many burning skies, too many broken lines. The veteran walked among his men. Their armor was dented, their weapons worn, their eyes hollow. Yet they still followed orders, because they had nothing else. He looked at them and thought of the humans he had seen, scarred, bloodied, yet always moving forward. His own people looked the same now. Worn down, fighting not for victory but for survival. When the humans came, they did not come quietly. The skies filled with streaks of fire as missiles tore through shields. Ships fell like stones, their wreckage burning across the horizon. The defenders returned fire, but it was like trying to stop the tide with bare hands. The veteran squad was ordered to hold a bridge into the city. They lined up in silence, weapons ready. Smoke already filled the air. In the distance he heard it, the steady rhythm of marching boots. Human boots. The first wave hit like a hammer. Shadows poured through the smoke, rifles flashing. The aliens fired back, and for a moment, the bridge became a wall of light and sound. Bodies fell, screams cut through the roar, but the humans did not stop. They advanced step by step, as if no force in the galaxy could halt them. The veteran fought with everything he had. His weapon blazed, his arms ached, his breath came ragged. Around him, comrades fell one by one. Still the humans came. Some fell, but others took their place, dragging the wounded, carrying flags, pressing forward no matter the cost. By nightfall, the bridge was a graveyard. Smoke rose in thick pillars lit by the glow of fires. The veteran knelt among the ruins, his armor cracked, his weapon empty. Across from him, human soldiers stood, battered but alive, their eyes burning with a fire that made his chest ache. He expected them to finish him. But they did not. They moved past him, steady and relentless, chasing the fleeing defenders deeper into the city. The veteran sat in the ruins, watching them disappear into the flames. For the first time, he felt not just fear, but respect. Later, as he limped back to what was left of his unit, he saw the Empire's banners torn down and replaced by human ones. The stars above seemed dimmer, as if even the heavens had turned away from his people. Around the fires that night, whispers spread among the survivors. "The humans are no longer defending," one soldier said. "They are conquering," another spat bitterly. "No, they are reclaiming what we tried to steal." The veteran said nothing. He only stared into the fire, remembering the human soldier who once charged with nothing but a broken blade, the children who fought with stones, the endless night filled with shadows. He realized then that this march would not end on this world. It would not end until the Empire itself was ashes. As dawn broke, new orders came. Retreat. The Empire was pulling back, world by world. What had once been endless expansion was now endless retreat. The veteran stood with his weapon in hand, looking toward the horizon where human banners waved among smoke. He whispered quietly, a truth his people still refuse to speak: this is not their last march. It is ours. The Empire was breaking. Once, its fleets had stretched across the stars, but now its ships limped from battle to battle, each weaker than the last. Its armies, once proud, now marched in silence, haunted by memories of humans who never stopped fighting. The veteran had lived long enough to see empires rise and fall, but never his own. He stood now on the bridge of a retreating warship, watching flames consume another world. Below, the humans had taken the cities. Their banners, torn and blackened by smoke, still waved defiantly. The commanders still spoke of victory, but no one listened anymore. The soldiers knew the truth. The humans had not only survived, they had changed the war. What began as invasion had become rebellion. What began as defense had become conquest. The veteran was summoned by the High Council one final time. Their chamber, once filled with pride, was dark and cold. "Veteran," one general demanded, "tell us how to break them. Tell us how to end this nightmare." The veteran looked at their weary faces. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the silence. "You cannot end it. The nightmare is not theirs. It is ours. We thought humans were weak. We thought their world would fall. But we gave them what no empire should ever give an enemy. We gave them reason to unite." The generals fell silent. For the first time, they had no answer. The veteran returned to the front lines. His squad, once 100 strong, was now only a handful. Their armor was cracked, their weapons few. They no longer spoke of winning. They only spoke of going home, if such a thing still existed. On the final battlefield he fought, the skies burned brighter than ever before. Missiles streaked like comets. Towers crumbled into dust. The ground shook with the march of soldiers. The humans came again, their faces scarred, their weapons old, but their eyes unbroken. They moved like the storm, fierce and unstoppable. The veteran fought until his weapon broke, then took another. He fought until his armor split, until his body bled, until every breath felt like fire. Around him, comrades fell, one after another. Still the humans pressed forward. At last, the veteran stood alone among the ruins. Before him, a human soldier approached, young, dirt-streaked, holding a rifle scratched and dented. They locked eyes across the smoke. The veteran raised his weapon, but his arms trembled. He saw not an enemy, but a reflection of himself, a fighter who refused to fall. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. For the first time in all his years, he bowed his head. The human did not kill him. Instead, the soldier passed him by, chasing the last fragments of the alien retreat. The veteran sank to his knees, the weight of centuries crashing upon him. He looked around at the burning city, at the banners rising where his empires had fallen, and he whispered to the wind, "The nightmare is over." And it was never theirs. It was ours from the beginning. When the war finally ended, the human stood among ashes, scarred but victorious. No alien had survived unchanged. The empire that once thought itself eternal had crumbled into dust. The veteran lived on, scarred in body and spirit, to tell the tale. He spoke not of victories or defeats, but of what he had seen with his own eyes, a species that turned weakness into strength, division into unity, and survival into something greater than war. What aliens saw on the human war front, he said in his final years, was not just battle. It was the truth of humanity. And no one who walked into that nightmare ever walked out the same.